Before Metal Gear Solid in 1998, legendary director Hideo Kojima had another hit in 1994 with Policenauts. Released in Japan on the PC-98, 3DO, PlayStation, and Sega Saturn platforms, this sci-fi adventure never saw a release in the States, and with the Saturn version considered as the superior port, a translation patch for it was finally released over 20 years after the game's initial launch. But if your Japanese skills aren't exactly up to snuff, and you're looking for a way to play it on an emulator such as RetroArch, or on original Saturn hardware using an ODE such as the Fenrir, I'm going to walk you through the steps to get the Sega Saturn version of Policenauts up and running in English. First things first, you're going to want to download the patch from policenauts.net. Links for this and everything I mentioned in this video will be linked down below. Next, you're going to want to install two programs, ISO Buster and XDelta 3. Currently, I'm running ISO Buster 4.6, and as for XDelta, there's a specific version I advise you to grab. Now we're at the XDelta GitHub. You'll see we're on version 3.0.11. The one I advise you to download will be this first one, XDelta 3-3.0.11-i86exe.zip. Now we're going to want to do a little bit of housekeeping. Feel free to set this up however you want, but this particular setup made it much easier for me. The first three folders are for the ISO Buster files that we'll be dumping later. The next three folders are going to contain your original Policenauts data. You should have 2 bin files and a Q file. Backups, of course. And the next 3 folders are where the final product will go. And the last folder down here is the download from policenauts.net. You'll also just want to grab maybe the shortcut for ISO Buster and just throw it in here. And as for the XDelta download, you'll actually want to throw the original exe file in this folder as well. We're going to start with ISO Buster and extract all the tracks from the disks. What you want to do first is go to your first disk of your Policenauts backup, double click on that, and you'll want to look for the Q file. Right click the Q file and open with ISO Buster. When the Q loads up, you'll want to right click on session 1, extract session 1 content, extract user data. And basically what you want to do is just find the path to that folder that you created earlier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head to my documents folder. We got this one right here. And so I'm going to do disk 1 ISO Buster. Hit OK there. And it'll extract that. Now we'll head back over here, we'll go back one, disk 1, ISO Buster, session 1, and there we go. So this is what you want to see. You'll want to see the track 1 ISO and the track 2 .wav file. And you're going to do this with the other 2 disks. So you'll do disk 2, throw it into the disk 2 folder. Disk 3, throw it into the disk 3 folder. When you've extracted all 3 disks, I just like to do a little once over to make sure everything's gone through well. So I'll head into the disk 1 folder, session 1, we have the ISO and the WAV. Disk 2, same thing. Good, ISO and WAV. And finally, disk 3, ISO, WAV file. Excellent. So now we can proceed. The next thing you want to do is rename the files. So you're going to head in there, head into session 1. And for track 1, what you're going to do is you're going to name it the following. It's going to be Policenauts _ the disk number, which is disk number 1, dash the track number, which is track number 1, .iso. And we'll expand this just so we can check it out. There we go. And you want to do the same thing with the WAV files, like a little different. So you're going to rename it. So it's just going to be Policenauts _ disk 1 dash track 2. So the ISO is track 1, the WAV file is going to be track 2. Expand this again, and there we go. And we're going to do the same thing for disk 2 and disk 3. So we'll go back. So again, Policenauts _ I'm just going to copy this. Now we got disk 2 dash track 1. Excellent. Name disk 2 dash track 2. Double check that. Excellent. And finally, disk 3. Same thing. Policenauts underscore disk 3 dash track 1. Policenauts underscore disk 3 dash track 2. And there we are. After this has been completed, you'll want to grab all of the WAV and the ISO files, and you'll want to drag them into the same folder. So I'm going to make a new window here. I'm just going to leave them side by side. This will make this next step a little easier. We'll head back into here, and all of the files that we need for the next couple steps are going to be in this Policenauts English Sega Saturn folder. So what I do is I'll just double click on that, and we'll bring the WAV and the ISO files into here. So there's our disk 3, disk 2, and disk 1. So now we've got all necessary files in one location. The next thing we're going to do is bring the xdelta3exe into the Policenauts folder, the original, not a shortcut. So grab that, drag it into the folder. So we've got the exe, we've got all our ISO and WAV files that we created, and all the files that came with the update patch. So what you want to do now is just double click on the batch file here, the patch.bat. What you don't want to do is right click on it and open as administrator. Because if you run it as administrator, it's not going to grab the same path up here. It's going to grab a system32 path, which then just won't find what you're looking for. So all you have to do here, you can just double click it. We'll run that, and you're going to see a command window come up. Unfortunately, text is a little small, so you can't increase it for whatever reason. So it's just going to give you all the information of how it's going to put everything together. You just press any key to continue. And it's going to run. And there we go. So we got all 3 disks patched with no error. So now what we're going to do is populate these last 3 empty folders here, which I've named Policenauts Translated Disk 1, Disk 2, and Disk 3. So we'll go to Disk 1, and what you want to grab is you're going to grab Policenauts underscore 1 English Q, and you're also going to grab the underscore 1-1 English ISO, and you're just going to grab the 1-2 WAV file. And what you'll do, drag those all in there like so. Disk 2, same thing. I'm going to grab the English Q, the English ISO, and the Disk 2 WAV file. And then finally, Disk 3. Disk 3 English Q and ISO, and the Disk 3 WAV file. Now I'm just going to copy these over to my SD card, as I've got my Sega Saturn running with the Fenrir, but this will work with any other ODE such as the Mode, Rhea, Phoebe, or the Satiator. And once these are copied over, we'll take the SD card over to the Sega Saturn, and we'll check it out. And here we are. Once you see the English text, you know you'll be good to go. So I'm going to leave you with a little bit of the intro, but this has been Digital Dev signing off, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.
最後までごゆっくりとご鑑賞ください。
2010年、人類初のスペースコロニービヨンドコーストが完成し、人類の宇宙への本格的進出が開始された。2013年、コロニーへの一般市民の移住に伴い、数十万の移住者たちの治安を守るため、俺たち5人の宇宙訓練を受けた警官が